Not that we ever have to give you a reason to be excited for the weekend to come, but we're going to give you one anyway because this is the weekend for the Hamilton County Fair, and we are so happy this morning to have Tammy Zumbrin with TVFCU, Hamilton County Mayor Weston Wamp, who is here to get us all smiling and excited. And I guess we should say thanks to you because you're the fall lover in the group this morning, and you wanted the fair to come back and have it feel like fall, right?
Well, everybody loves the fall festival. I feel like fall festivals have really caught on, and we had to rebuild this fair from nothing. We had no fair for a few years. COVID killed it off, and it had always been at Chester Frost, which is a beautiful place, not a great fair venue. And so most people had to get on a school bus and trek up there, and the logistics just weren't great. And so when we decided to rebuild it, we moved it to McDonald Farm, and I asked, just remembering, I'm not a hot weather guy. And so I remember as a kid, it could get really steamy up there on the island at Chester Frost. And so we moved it back. And some people don't like that. I get complaints that it's too cold.
Not this weekend.
No, it's usually, if you think about the first week of, you never know, right? Our weather is notoriously unpredictable, but the second week of November is usually really nice.
Well, this weekend, it is doing us all a favor because there's zero reason for you to not be able to go out. And then, Tammy, thanks to y'all's sponsorship with TVFCU, the weather cooperates, and it's so affordable. Right?
We love that. That was one of the reasons we decided to come on and be a sponsor because, of course, we're always looking for big community things to do where everybody's welcome and you can go with your family and just have a great time. And this one is so affordable at $14 for the weekend, children under 10 free.
And there's parking.
All the games are free. You know, I remember years ago you'd go to the fair and you were nickel and dimed everywhere you went.
Right.
The games are included, so your kids can actually go, and it doesn't matter what place you are economic-wise, how much money you have. You can usually afford it.
Well, and that does add up. We've all lived that before too. So especially if you have 2 or 3 kids, you're having to parcel it all out. So this makes it easy. I know I was eavesdropping on the two of you a little bit, and I gather that it's hard for you to figure out which part of the weekend has you most excited. I think yours is the rodeo on Friday night.
Well, there's just fun about it all.
You like the nostalgia of it, don't you?
I do. Well, and Hamilton County is more of a metro area, and so we don't get rodeos, you know.
No,
it's more
I wanted
of
to be a cowgirl.
It's more of a rural Tennessee tradition. I was talking to my wife the other night, and we were saying, okay, how are we going to get the kid? How are we going to do the county fair this year? And then I got into this exercise, and I said, well, I mean, the first night's great because it's a rodeo. Probably you can't miss the big concert night with Diamond Rio. So I told her, I was like, you know, maybe we do adults that night. And then, but then you don't want to miss the fireworks. And through all this, you've got lumberjack shows and the amusement park rides are something that we said on the front end when we started the fair back a couple years ago. We didn't want it to be nickel and dimed. We wanted families, you know, once you're there and you're ticketed and you're in, food is going to cost you money, but you've got a ton of options, and then everything else is paid for.
Also, if you have little ones, little ones, there's just room to go run and twirl in the grass. And what a beautiful spot. I mean, you mentioned Chester Frost, which has its own charm, but you cannot beat the history and the beauty of McDonald Farm. I mean, it is a spot on the map to see.
It is gorgeous.
Yeah,
absolutely. And the animals are all there. That's one of my favorite things the kids love.
There are animals who live there, and then there will be even more animals.
Who are there? Murphy? And the Murphy, that's the donkey.
I'm curious, does either of you know the story behind how you got Diamond Rio? And my question really would just be, I mean, that's a name from the past, but it's a good name from the past.
Yeah.
And were they excited to get the ask?
I think they were excited. We had a few. We narrowed it down to a few, right? You've got some constraints on funds, and then you've got constraints on who's available this weekend. And I thought 90s country was a good direction for us to go, right?
Yeah.
90s country made a big comeback, and Diamond Rio, even people who may not realize it, you probably know.
Yeah.
Even if you're not a country music fan, you very likely know 4 or 5 Diamond Rio songs, and if you are a country music fan, you probably know 10.
Right.
And so that's fun, and it gives, we rely on TVFCU and the other big partners to make this thing affordable. And that's part of what I would say is, you know, we got Little Debbie in early, and TVFCU and EPB were among the very first to be a part of this thing because we wanted it to be a community county fair.
Right.
And we wanted it to be accessible to everybody. And the only way we can put on the kind of production that we do and keep tickets low is because of people like Tammy.
I'm trying to remember last year, because Little Debbie was a part of it last year too. And didn't they do some kind of big display with their Little Debbie?
Yeah.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, there's always something that's never happened before.
Yeah.
Some show of the biggest of this, and honestly, there's a bunch of giveaways. That's one thing I've noticed.
yeah.
Is my kids will run around the fair and they'll come back with all sorts of, this vendor's giving that away and this sponsor's giving that away, but there's always free Little Debbie's on
You
site.
know, you keep talking about your kids. And I'm sure when you're talking about your kids, you're thinking back to when it was you who was the kid. We've all been there. But parents today, it's a different challenge. When you go do public things like this with your children, there's a worry that you didn't have as a kid. This kind of gives parents a chance to feel a little relaxed, though, too, doesn't it, Weston? It's a say, not
I
that
think
you
so,
want to
yeah.
take your eyes off your kids, but it feels a little bit
It's
like time
big and
gone
wide
by.
open. You know, one of my favorite moments last year, because I do usually drag my kids up there just about every day, and I look over and my boys had just started a football game. They'd started with other kids they'd never met, just right there in the middle of the grounds. It is, to your point, you know, water terrifies parents. Chester Frost is surrounded by water. You're on a farm. It's this part of the farm. You know, we do the fair on the old historic homestead, so you're there close to the home and the barn buildings, and it's fair. It's safe, and the fairgrounds go through an extensive safety planning process. Our emergency management team starts working on this thing almost as soon as the fair ends, preparing for the next year. And it's a lot of fun. And one thing I'll add about parking, because parking is free, and there are a lot of people who remember our first year that we brought the fair back 2 years ago. We had an avalanche of people who came to see Lauren Elena, and it was a traffic nightmare, and we admit that, and we fixed it. If you came last year, it was fixed, and it'll
Put
be
it
even
out of your
better.
mind.
Yeah, put it out of your mind. You don't have to pay for parking, and the traffic won't be that bad.
Then we will let you have the last word on that high note. Don't be afraid to park. Come let your kids feel like part of nostalgia, because that's what it is. It's Americana at its best, Tennessee style. The Hamilton County Fair, all 3 days this weekend. Go to hamiltontnfair.com to learn more. Thanks.
West Yellowknife, over 40,000 square feet packed with over $1 million